it out to everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Josh Daly with the Rhode Island Food Policy Council, and we have a team here from the Center for EcoTechnology, Rescuing Leftover Cuisine, and Means Database. Really glad to have you all here today. So we'll jump right in. As we're going, ask you to stay on mute and put any comments or questions in the chat. Keep introducing yourselves to us and to one another in the chat as well. And as I said, we are recording this clearly, and we'll send out the recording to everyone. So next slide, please. Oh. Our goal today is to provide relevant information, credible resources, and answer questions about how to manage surplus food from events, restaurants, other institutional settings, and how to do it easily and responsibly. We've got a great team of folks to guide our discussion today. I want to make it very practical for you and answer your burning questions. So again, use that chat. We'll be monitoring the chat for your questions throughout the presentation. So we're going to cover some topics that I think will be relevant for you. But again, if you don't see things covered or if you have a burning question, don't wait, you can put it in the chat. So why donate your surplus food? That big question around liability protections. I know that's a big issue for a big concern for a lot of folks. The tax benefits of donating your surplus food, food safety and handling issues, logistics of working with the folks here, and additional recycling sources, and we'll have questions and answers as well. So we'll cover a wide variety of things in the next hour. Next slide. As I mentioned, I'm Josh Daly, Associate Director of the Rhode Island Food Policy Council. We've got Ali Montagnan, our Communications Manager, on our team here as well. We exist. We are an independent, non-governmental, nonprofit organization, network of food system stakeholders with a mission to build a more equitable, accessible, economically vibrant, and environmentally sustainable food system here in Rhode Island. As you can see, our core issues here around food access and nutrition, food business and economy, food climate and environment, and food education and workforce. And really, this issue of thinking about wasted food solutions touches on all of those things. So we're excited to have you all here and to help host this conversation. But you won't be hearing from me too much. I'll be looking out for those questions in the chat, but we're going to pass it on to some great folks who are going to present in more detail. So we can go to the next slide. So I'm going to pass it over to Dana with Rescuing Leftover Cuisine first.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here, and thank you so much for joining us. So I'm going to start off by introducing myself. My name is Dana. I'm the Partnerships Director of Rescuing Leftover Cuisine. We're a nonprofit food rescue organization. If you can go to the next slide. I'm a Rhode Island resident. I started with RLC back in 2017 after having been in the events industry, actually, which I still am, trying to get food donation going. And I realized that transportation was a real issue. And as a Rhode Island resident, I'm just really excited to be a part of this whole entire movement. But that said, I really want to start by talking about the elephant in the room, which you all might be wondering what that is. So if you can go to the next slide, I will explain that. So that's 175 elephants to be exact, which is the approximate equivalent of how much food ends up in the Rhode Island landfill every single day. That's just food. Now, parts of that is food that is safe for consumption that would have otherwise been donatable. Other parts of that might be food that could have been recovered through anaerobic digestion or for animal feed or for composting. But altogether, the equivalent of 175 elephants in food fills the Rhode Island landfill every day. I think that's a crime. So if you go to the next slide, the issue is food loss is everyone's problem. It's not just my problem. It's not just your problem. It's not just the person who needs the food's problem. Up to 40% of food is filling our landfills. Meanwhile, over 31% of Rhode Island households experience food insecurity. And I want to point out something very important, which is that percentage is higher for Black and Brown households. So there is a real tie between food justice, nutritional justice, and social justice. And we don't want to see food unnecessarily go to waste, which is why we're all here to talk with you and why we hope you're here to talk with us, learn from us, converse with us, and maybe start some really great connections. So the thing is, every time food ends up in a landfill, it's hurting the people that could have used it. It's also hurting ourselves because it's ending up creating methane gases that is affecting our air and therefore our health. I like to think of food recovery as something, specifically food redistribution, as something that benefits the people who need it today and benefits us and our future generations tomorrow by cleaning the air that we breathe. So one thing to very much keep in mind, and you can go to the next slide, is that the Rhode Island landfill is actually set to expire in 2040. So we need to slow that down. That's one other thing that I wanted to add in there. So one thing about food recovery, and in this particular case, food recovery and redistribution, there's so many ways to go about it. The issue of wasted food and the issues of food insecurity, nutrition insecurity, these are issues that can't be tackled from one vantage point alone. It takes several organizations, several missions, several ways of going about it, several processes to really find a solution to these issues, which are so incredibly important and affect us every single day. So I want to, before I even go off about RLC, Rescuing Leftover Cuisine, I really want to thank the Rhode Island Food Policy Council, Means Database, Center for Women and EcoTechnology, and so many other organizations that aren't even here, Hope's Harvest, We Share Hope, other great organizations in the space that are all coming into this from different angles and doing such important work because we can't do it alone. You know, RLC can't do it alone, Means can't do it alone. We can't do it alone. We need all of these people in the space. So I want to give that shout out. So that said, RLC solution, we very much rely on technology to create a sustainable, efficient, reliable service. We believe that not just for RLC, but the movement of food recovery and redistribution, it needs to be efficient, it needs to be sustainable, and the cost per meal rescued and redistributed needs to be on the lower side in order to keep the entire movement alive, right? So we utilize technology in a really big way to make that happen. We also crowdsource community members as rescuers, both volunteer and paid rescuers, to pick up the food from our donor partners and bring it to where it's got to go, making no stops in between. We work with hundreds and hundreds of organizations, and we match the food to their need based on very specific criteria. And which is why you're here, we incentivize businesses to partner with us to do the right thing. And that's what it is. It's the right thing. Whether you are giving it to people who need it, whether you are going down the food recovery hierarchy to, animal feed, anaerobic digestion, composting, no matter how you're recovering it, it's incredibly important. But it's very important to keep in mind that food donation, aside from eliminating the possibility of waste in the first place, which I believe Abby's going to talk about a little bit, which is really awesome. Aside from eliminating that waste, giving it to people who need it is the second tier on that food recovery hierarchy. All right, so we can go to the next slide. Just to talk about our own impact, we are a national organization. We've recovered over 11 million pounds of food so far. Just celebrated our 10th anniversary. It's really exciting. For every, basically the equivalent of 1.2 pounds of food is the equivalent of one meal. And for every pound of food that is diverted from a landfill, it's saving 0.375 pounds of emissions from entering the Earth's atmosphere. So, we have a huge network of rescuers, donor partners, and organizations, as you can see here, which we are incredibly grateful for. So if you go to the next slide, I'll be able to talk a little bit about our regional impact. And this is something I'm so excited about, honestly, because I'm a Rhode Islander. I've been with the team since 2017, started off, getting the Massachusetts branch kind of to where it needed to be. And then I started the Rhode Island branch in 2021. And since then, we have recovered over 50,000 pounds of food right here in Little Rhodey. But here's the thing, we've only scratched the surface. So we need businesses to donate their surplus food to go to people who need it, right? But this could not have been done without our rescuers, who are the heart and soul of our organization, and really streamline the process, which I'll talk about on this next slide, if you can go to the next slide. So we make it really easy. And one thing about food recovery and redistribution is, if it's not easy for all participants, people won't participate, quite simply. Okay, so we need to make it easier and easy and efficient and reliable, very streamlined for you as a business in order to do the right thing. So we do all that heavy lifting. We make it so that we're your one primary point of contact, really just your single point of contact on behalf of all the organizations your food is donated to if you were to work with us. And I know Means goes about it the same way, so I want to give props out to them as well, because we go about things very, very similarly, yet complementary, because we definitely have different processes that complement each other in a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful way. We very much are yin and yang, which is why we're here under one roof. And the in a nutshell version is our food donor packages the food, in order to make sure that obviously food safety is priority number one. So with that in mind, the food donor packages the food. You schedule a pickup online. If it's recurring, you do it once and it's done. A rescuer picks it up, making no stops in between, brings it to the organization, and then the donations are served. It's as simple as that. Everything is uploaded onto your portal in real time. And actually, if you go to the next slide, I can show you that. And that shows what the metrics look like, your upcoming donations. You can cancel, schedule, see metrics, download reports, the whole shebang. We make it very, very easy at a click of a button to be able to see everything. Because again, if it's not easy, we understand you will not be able to participate. You're a business, we're the nonprofit. We need to make it easy for you. I think that it's incredibly important for organizations like ours to be able to take care of that coordination, to be reliable, to have a high success rate, a very high success rate in pickups being able to be, properly executed. And one of the things that we also really pride ourselves on is the flexibility, because, with food businesses, you don't always know if you're going to have it or how much you're going to have, but we don't have a minimum requirement. We can pick up any day, anytime, any amount of food, no restrictions. So if you go to the next slide, I'll just talk a little bit about that. Essentially, I just want to talk about some of the benefits. Food donation, it is encouraged, be it liability protections, be it federal tax incentives. We're trying to get state incentives as well. There are a lot of reasons to donate food that will actually benefit from you, aside from just doing the right thing. And if you want to learn more, we can definitely connect. We can go a little further on that. So we can explain the liability, the waistbands, which I believe we're going to be touching on later, and all of the other reasons why it's so important to do the right thing. And I keep saying that, but I mean it wholeheartedly. If you go to the next slide, this is just a little bit of information as far as our, some testimonials. We work with all types of businesses throughout the entire country. Here in New England, we've worked with Boston Public Market, Dig, Levy Restaurants, Convene, so many others who are very happy with our service, and we really pride ourselves on. The very next slide has our contact information, which you'll also be able to see again at the very end of this entire presentation. The purpose of this event is to do a shallow dive, to introduce you to all of the areas that you can make an impact. So I'm really excited to turn it over back to our team so that we can, so that Sammy from Means and Abby from CET can talk more about them and their organizations and what they do and how we all work in the space together. And again, just so grateful that you're here. So thank you so much for listening. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll take the next slide. And that was a lot of fantastic information. I want to let everybody know that if you got burning questions, burning comments, please feel free to put them in the chat as we go. And we will keep an eye out for those. But for right now, I'll pass it over to Sammy with Means.
Awesome. Perfect. Thanks so much. And thanks everyone for being here. I'm really excited to share about our work and what we do. So like Josh said, my name is Sammy Paul. I'm the executive director here at Means Database. Means stands for Matching Excess and Need for Stability. So similar to Dana's work at RLC, we work as that middleman, that connector of excess food, and then getting it to people who need it. Before and during a lot of my time at Means, I also worked at a restaurant. I've worked at a couple different places. I've had pretty much every front of house position out there. I've hosted, I've been a food runner, busser, server, bartender. So that's what really brought me to Means. I saw firsthand from events that we would host, catering that would get canceled 20 minutes before it's supposed to be picked up, all sorts of crazy situations that I'm sure you all see regularly working in a food business. And when I was working at these restaurants, I figured there must be a better way to be able to get this extra food out to our neighbors that need it. And that's how I stumbled upon Means. If you could hit the next slide, please. So like I mentioned, Means connects organizations with extra food to communities that need it. We're a logistics platform and a communications platform. So it's really easy. We have a website. Whenever you have extra food, you can just log on, write up a quick post to say, hey, I have 5 extra cater trays of mac and cheese and vegetables, or whatever it may be. Our system will automatically email and text food pantries and soup kitchens nearby to say, hey, this is available. Are you interested? And the group that is interested can claim. They're connected to you. You guys share contact info, and we can also offer drive support for these donations as well. So our 2 main goals, the reason we're here and doing this work, is to reduce food waste, specifically of excess edible food, and also to reroute that excess to those who need it. So we're a completely free organization, fully grant funded. So it's free to use our platform, see all of our data. In Rhode Island specifically, our claim time is less than a minute. So businesses that post, within a minute, it's claimed and there's a home for it. So yeah, it's a very quick way to find a recipient, which is great. Here's kind of an overview of our work in Rhode Island over the past several years. So we started off with the Road to End Hunger initiative in 2017. That was in partnership with the Rhode Island Department of Health, who have been amazing partners over the years. And a big worry that Josh mentioned at the beginning is liability concerns. So to be able to partner with the Department of Health has been amazing. Something that maybe some people on this call don't know is it's completely fine and in fact encouraged to donate extra food. The health department's not going to come after you. I know that where I worked and I tried to push food donation, food recovery, that's the feedback I got a lot. So very common misconception. So after our initial work on the Road to End Hunger initiative, in 2020, in response to COVID, we launched a community meal program. So as we saw really struggling small businesses in Providence and across the country, alongside a lot of increase in demand for emergency food, that's kind of where this program was born. So we purchased catering orders from small businesses and then donated those to nonprofits helping those in need. So in 2020 and 2021, in Providence specifically, we purchased and redistributed more than 50,000 meals. You can see the photo here on the bottom left is one of our partners, Pablo, from EP Empanadas, EP Kitchen Empanadas. So he made hundreds of empanadas every week. One of the recipients was the Providence Community Fridge, as you can see there, filled to the brim with a great meal for whoever may need it. So after the community meal program, and we started to see more businesses opening, people starting to return to work, we have transitioned and transferred back over to doing more food recovery instead of food purchasing. So that's where we really started working a lot more with Dana and her awesome team at RLC. We got our first EPA grant at the end of 2021, and the rest is history. So that's been really integral to our success to continue to grow and just support everybody in the state of Rhode Island. And we're continuing to grow that work. So like Dana mentioned, we're expanding into Massachusetts. One thing that we've seen a lot of is cross-border donations. So if you're on the border of Rhode Island, don't worry. We have partners in Massachusetts and vice versa. We have no problem crossing state lines to get food to those who need it. And the past several years, since 2017 in Rhode Island, we've recovered more than 63,000 pounds of food. If you could go to the next slide, please. So to get a little bit more into what we've talked about of liability protection. So in 1998, there was the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Food Donation Act, which is such a mouthful. And I'm really relieved that a couple years ago, they decided to scrap that and just do the Food Donation Act because it's a lot clearer what they do. So this just built upon the legislation from 1998, just stating that on the federal level, food donors who donate in apparent good faith to a nonprofit organization are free from liability. And then in 2021, it also stated you can donate to an individual in need. It doesn't have to go through a nonprofit organization. So you can donate to a nonprofit and you're free from liability. You can also donate directly to an individual and you're free from liability. So we're really excited about this new legislation and the clearer name and the addition of donating directly to individuals in hopes that it'll encourage more donation and appease and stop any worries of liability, because I know that gets worrisome. Next slide, please. So here's a little video. It should just show hopefully like a minute clip of this, just so you can see our work in action. This features Twin River Casino in Rhode Island, who has been a big donor, especially before COVID. To us, and then a nonprofit recipient. So you can just kind of see how our system works and see a donation move through the whole process. I can also narrate. I'm not sure if the audio is coming through on your side. Okay, no problem. I can just narrate. So here is, if you go to like 120 or 125, that'd be perfect. Thank you. That's just a whole bunch of clips from our team, so I figured I'd skip through that. You're getting enough of me speaking. So here is a bunch of extra chicken, and then also some ribs there, I believe, from Twin River Casino. So here they are packaging up all of the extras, going on to the Means site and posting that donation. So here's what our posting a donation form looks like. So he's just explaining his whole process. We see it on our side. That's our co-founder, Maria Rose, there. So we get a notification about all of those extras, as well as our nonprofit partners. So here's their notification on their cell phone, claimed it, awesome. So they get the donor gets the recipient's contact information and vice versa. So you can see the recipient driving to Twin River to pick that up. And here are all of those trays. This is a really big donation. And Twin River is 24/7 operation. It's crazy. So they see a lot of flux and have to prepare for a lot. So that's how they end up with lots and lots of extras, but it definitely goes to a good home. Yeah, so you can see it's probably about 2,000 pounds, I think, was this donation in total. So this is going to Macaulay House in Rhode Island. You can see it being repurposed within 2 hours and being served. So something that was lunch extras is now being served for dinner, just a couple hours later and just a few miles away. If you could go to the next slide, please. Awesome, thank you. And then I just want to end with a quote from one of our partners in Smithfield. So again, you don't have to be in Providence to be part of this program. You can really be anywhere in Rhode Island, anywhere in Massachusetts, anywhere nationwide. We work nationwide, so don't feel restricted by where you are. This is just a quote from Sarah at a catering company. They work out of an office building, so the corporate cafeteria there. She says, we've been using the Means database for about 4 years now, and I will say that is the easiest way to donate food. The fact that we are donating and not just throwing it away is a great feeling on its own. To know that we're feeding people out there in the community our food that we make in our kitchen. I think other people should use this platform because it's super easy to navigate, and the feeling you get when you have donated a couple 100 pounds of food to people is overwhelming. Thank you for being able to help us give back. And Sarah just last week donated 1,000 pounds of food. So with the fluctuation that they see of their company saying return to office, actually don't. We're very lucky to be able to work with her and get that food to those who need it. Next slide, please. And here's my contact info, and also my coworker Victoria's on this call, just a little bit under the weather, but Victoria is just graduating now from Brown University, and works on the Food Recovery Network at Brown, so has a lot of great connections on the ground there. So feel free to reach out to either of us, and I'll pass it back to Josh.
Thanks, Sammy. Before I pass it over to Abby, we did have one question in the chat that I think is pretty easy to answer. Emma asked, said, I'd like to know what areas in Rhode Island both RLC and Means service. I think the answer is all of Rhode Island, anywhere in Rhode Island. Okay. So that's an emphatic yes, everywhere in Rhode Island and beyond. All right, so I will pass it along to Abby. Again, keep those questions coming in. The chat will have an open Q&A at the end here as well. But Abby, I'll pass it to you to take it away.
Thank you, Josh. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having CET present today. And I don't know about you, but I am 100% energized by seeing those presentations from Rescuing Leftover Cuisine and Means Database, how they work together and complement each other, as well as like those wonderful stories and the impact that their organizations have. So awesome job, you guys. I'm Abby Lucero. I'm with the Center for EcoTechnology, or CET for short. I'm a waste reduction consultant, and in my role, I help businesses get connected to organizations like Means and Rescuing Leftover Cuisine, as well as many other service providers. So today, I'll be sharing about the ripe opportunities for businesses' food waste. I'll be introducing who we are, what we do, the resources we have on demand ready for you today, and also the free support available to you pretty much across Rhode Island to help reduce waste, and some case studies. There's many of us in the audience today, I believe, so you might see others in the chat posting. Thank you for going to the next slide. So our organization, CET, is a nonprofit that helps people and businesses save energy and reduce waste. And we've been doing this work for over 45 years now, and we help make it easier for businesses and institutions to implement waste reduction programs of all sizes. Next slide, please. This work would not be possible without our tremendous partners, and you can see here we have a lot of them. We're very thankful for that. This includes state agencies across the country, cities, foundations, utility companies, the federal government agencies such as the USDA and the EPA, of course, here in Rhode Island, the 11th Hour Racing Grant Program. Next slide. I just wanted to share with you the services are, we primarily fall under these three categories, and I can't get into too much detail today, but we do provide one-on-one assistance to help businesses implement waste reduction programs. We provide matchmaking services such as connecting a grocery store to a food rescue organization or maybe a food waste hauler. And then we share these successful partnerships on our website and social media to inspire other businesses to make change. And then the cycle starts again. But on our next slide, I'll talk a little bit about our no-cost technical assistance. So you can go ahead and move the slide. Thank you. So following our in-person or virtual waste assessment, we develop customized and written recommendation reports that include a reflection of what we saw when we met with the business, as well as different observations that we uncovered to recover or otherwise divert food waste from the trash. You can use our recommendations as a roadmap to implementing different programs, especially the ones that are going to align best for your business. And we'll also include a tailored list of different service providers, best practices for rolling out the programs that we'll see in just a bit, as well as training resources to encourage long-lasting success of these programs. We can also help you determine if you're subject to the Rhode Island organic waste recycling law, which applies to higher educational facilities, educational entities, commercial food wholesalers, supermarkets, and more. So we can help work through that as well. And yes, on the next slide, we're going to go to the EPA food recovery hierarchy that Dana alluded to in her presentation. Might look familiar to some of us. It's commonly shared visual of the EPA, ranks food recovery strategies in this way. At the top, we have food waste prevention or source reduction, preventing food waste before it occurs, essentially. Second, we have feeding hungry people or developing a food donation program, which we just heard all about how easy that is to do. Next, we have collecting our food scraps separately from the trash or source separation of food scraps so that they can be sent to feed animals, sent for industrial uses such as anaerobic digestion, or sent to a commercial composting facility. At CET, we meet you where you are. We pride ourselves in helping you implement whatever program you are comfortable implementing, and we can help you at any level of this hierarchy, whether that's strengthening an existing food recovery program or maybe developing a whole new food waste collection program, for example. And I just want to note that there's no one strategy, and I think our other speakers alluded to this as well, but no one strategy or level of this hierarchy that's going to solve our food waste issue. We actually need all of these strategies working together in order to meet our goals and reduce our environmental impact. So I'm going to highlight food waste prevention as well as source separation as the primary focus of my session today, as we've heard in depth on food donation. But just know that on our website, we have how-to guidance documents for implementing these different programs, developing a food donation program to help you visualize what that looks like, and questions you can ask service providers. And we can always help Rhode Island businesses through our free technical assistance. So I'll go to the next slide on food waste prevention. Step one is to think about why and where food waste is occurring in your facility is really the first step. We've worked with many businesses to help them do this, self-analysis, and then they've implemented some really great techniques, which can be quite simple. And usually the motivation is saving money here, but another benefit is to also prevent food waste. We worked with a hotel that made the simple switch of decreasing buffet tray size from 4 inches to 2 inches. Buffet looked, full and appetizing, and that allowed for less food to set out, which led to less waste. Also, a restaurant in Boston serves French fries with the skins on, which saved them money in compost hauling costs of those potato skins. And much like food donation, food waste prevention is simple. It can be cost effective. It's actually the most cost effective food recovery strategy, and many businesses realize savings here through reduced purchasing and lower disposal costs. So we can go to the next slide, which is a business highlight on Shibuya. And Chef James here is just epitomizes excellent food recovery strategies, particularly with food waste prevention. He purchases whole chickens, processes them on site, and uses the kind of less desirable parts like feet, neck, and bones to make confit and collagen soup. They also use late harvest asparagus and miso soups. Mealy apples are made into a spicy pepper topping for chicken. And in just 15 months of tracking their food waste prevention program, they noticed a decrease in purchasing costs to 10% by using what otherwise would have been waste in new menu items and ingredients. You can also check out our case study on Amphenag Brewery in Warwick, Rhode Island. They have a really a number of different food waste prevention strategies, but one I wanted to mention here is they have a share shelf for their employees that they put food and ingredients nearing expiration, and then staff can take that food home. Next slide is a note on source separation best practices. So the lower levels of the hierarchy, collecting our food scraps separately from the trash so that they can go to a higher and better use. So right below food donation. The key to success with these programs is making sure staff are thoroughly trained and in the know on what should and should not be included in a food waste collection program. Material movers, wait staff, everyone in the facility can be trained on these programs. This can include color coding bins and bags, as well as clear signs. Chefs typically use these clear dishwasher safe Lexan style containers that are placed on a prep station, place prep scraps in it, and then empty it into a barrel cart so that it can be stored outside for a pickup by a hauler. A common misconception with these programs is that businesses will somehow be handling more material than they were when it was just being placed in the trash, but it's actually the same amount of material you were generating before, just separated out. We can actually go to the next slide on the case study on Johnny's Luncheonette, who observed another common benefit of source separating food scraps, which is a cleaner dumpster area. They observed that by separating their food scraps into a separate container, they no longer saw birds and other critters paying a visit to their trash dumpster. So oftentimes these areas are, the cleanliness is improved when implementing food scrap separation. And our next slide, I just wanted to highlight an example of our food waste signs. We have signs for all different materials, and we customize these for the businesses that we work with, again, for free. So we can tailor these to your materials actually found at your business. We can offer translated versions. We have some for food donation, single stream recycling, and more. But the idea here is to ensure that your waste program is fully accessible to all users by different pictures, text, and language translations. Our next slide is just some spotlights we have ready to go on our website if you wanted to share these on social media to help, again, inspire other businesses to make change happen, reduce their environmental impact. So we've assisted these restaurants in Rhode Island and launched a social media campaign to build awareness around the great and celebrate successes of the great work that Rhode Island businesses have done to reduce wasted food. And our next slide is just a snapshot of where we're doing our work across the country, including Rhode Island. We're so thrilled that we're able to share our expertise and the success of Rhode Island businesses nationwide while continuously learning from others along the way. We have staff based in Rhode Island and across the Northeast, so we are here to help. And I'll end on the last slide here, just a snapshot of our Wasted Food Solutions website, where you can find our contact information. Our tools in the toolbox include all those guidance documents I alluded to earlier, case studies, service provider highlights. So please, and the next slide is just my information where you can also contact me directly, which again will be shared later on as well. But we are here to help and answer questions. And I'm so thankful that I was able to be with you all today. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. So we're gonna give you a couple things too, bring Dana back to have a quick conversation about, I mentioned the Rhode Island Food Policy Council. One of the roles that we play, as our name suggests, is to advocate for and advance good food systems policy. So Dana and others here have been very active members of our Wasted Food Solutions work group. Dana, I want to give you a chance to share on some of the things that you've been doing with RLC and with us. And that people all are welcome to join in this work too. Both, we hope that you're motivated to work with these three amazing organizations. Obviously, three very helpful people who are ready to help you make your food waste a thing of the past. But let's talk about what you've been up to policy-wise, Dana.
Yeah, thank you so much. And just another shout out to Sammy and Abby. I mean, you guys are just amazing. Like, your organizations are amazing. You're amazing. I've loved listening to you and learning from you. I feel like I'm always learning from you, even though I know you and know your organization so much. I always feel like I learn from you every single time. So I hope other people here feel the same. So, you know, it's funny because I come from a boots on the ground vantage point, right? I'm very much a behind the scenes kind of a gal. But the more boots on the ground I was, the more I realized that things from the top needed to be better. And policy is really where that starts. And I had the honor of being able to testify for the Food Donation Improvement Act of 2021, which was passed by Biden in January of 2023. And it was an amazing experience. And, you know, I think that a lot of businesses, first of all, still don't know that you can donate surplus food without facing civil or criminal liability issues. And I think it's incredibly important for all businesses to be very aware of that. I think secondly, it's hard to make changes. You know, as human beings, it's hard to make change. As a business, it's really hard to make change. But I think knowing that the policies are set out the way they are to try to make change easier and even more beneficial, mutually beneficial, I think is incredibly important, and that will go into the policy to some of the stuff that we're working on with the Policy Council. And you can go to the next slide, but please, if you can. But one thing that I have to say is my personal goal and the goal of RLC is to make Rhode Island the first state in the country with 100% food security. I think it's an achievable goal. I think we have, Rhode Island, we have the best food businesses in Ireland, whether it's a distributor, a market, the restaurants, come on. I still haven't been to them all, and I've been here for a long time. The hospitality, the events industry, we got it going here in Rhode Island. I think that there is enough to go around, and I think that this goal is achievable. And one thing to help incentivize businesses such as yourselves to do the right thing is our goal to pass a policy in Rhode Island that would provide all people, actually, including businesses, with the ability to have a tax credit based on, the food that you're donating per pound. The enhanced tax benefits federally are A, challenging to get, and B, despite all the documentation that I know Means provides and that RLC provides, a lot of businesses just don't take advantage of those benefits. So we're really hoping, as the Food Policy Council, to be able to encourage businesses to take advantage of these benefits. And we're hoping to get this passed here in Rhode Island. There's already been a House hearing because it was a line item in the a proposed line item in the governor's budget, as well as proposed statewide policy. And that has also had a House hearing. We are waiting on another House hearing or a Senate hearing to see where it goes. But we want to let you know that this is hopefully happening, that we are working on it, and that we want to see businesses be able to get something back. And, really quick, this statewide credit would be in addition to, not in lieu of, the federal enhanced tax incentive. Because an incentive is actually a little bit different from a credit. Not enough time to explain all that here, but you can definitely talk to one of us after to kind of take a deeper dive on that. So I hope this answers that. This is Heather from Z Pita Chips. If you have not had them, they are amazing. You must try them. And she is one of our food donor partners, and this is her quote about the importance of being able to have this credit. And I think it was really important. More people need to be educated on the positive impact this has within our communities. Tax credits would help do just that, because let's face it, saving money always incentivizes people. So I think that's a great thing. Any questions, let us know. But it's wonderful to be a part of the Rhode Island Food Policy Council. And, the motto of the council is to create a more circular food system. Please forgive me if I'm not quoting that exactly perfectly. But
I think that's fair.
But what we do here is one part of that circle. one part of that circle. So, and policy is a big part of that. So thanks.
Yeah, I would just say, add one thing to that, which is the two things that are called out here, HB 5200 and H 5803. So the first is what was introduced in the governor's budget. It would only apply to farmers, fishers, folks who are growing and harvesting food. They would be the only ones who would get that tax credit. H 5803 is much broader. It would allow for other producers of food waste to take advantage of that credit. There's a question from Melissa here about, would that benefit somehow help out nonprofits too? Yes and no. Yes, it would incentivize more food donation. So that in that way would definitely help out nonprofits in the network. A tax credit isn't really applicable to nonprofits. So, but I'm going to put a thing in the chat here. You can be in touch with us. You can find your state legislators here. You find your state legislators and send them a quick note. Let them know you're their constituent and say, I want this bill to pass. I want H 5803. You know, if you say your name, where you're from, and that you're writing in support of H 5803, that's the information that they need to know. So we'll go to the next slide. And this is the many community partners who support, I think, Rescuing Leftover Cuisine in particular, but we'll go to the next slide. Expound on, go ahead, next slide. So this is the contact information for everyone on the call. And as you've heard, folks are ready and eager to help you make food waste a thing of the past. If you feel motivated to do so, I hope you do. And we'll open up for more questions. You can put them in the chat. Expound on how, I see a question from Vernon. Can you expound on how Rhode Island landfill will expire in 2040? Is it privately owned? No, so it's not privately owned. It's the state's landfill. Expire in the sense that it will be full. We're sending as Dana so eloquently put at the beginning of this call, 175 elephants worth of food per day into that landfill. That could, as you can tell from this call, could have gone to and could go to people who need that food. And if it's not suitable for people, can go further down that hierarchy to get to composters, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, 722 tons of food waste every single day. I hope that motivates you all to action, that you can change this from, as Dana said, you know, our goal at the Food Policy Council is a more just and resilient food system for all Rhode Islanders. And a big piece of that is no food insecurity. People have the food that they need, that is appropriate, that is nourished, and no food waste going into the landfill. There should be no organic waste making its way to the landfill. It has much better uses for our environment, for all the businesses that are doing this, for people, for everyone, right? It's a lose-lose-lose when it ends up in the landfill. It's a win-win-win when we can find those other ways. Sorry for the soapbox. Other questions, other comments in the chat?
Perhaps while people are thinking of their question and putting it in the chat, I had a question for Dana and Sammy. How do others, maybe you could speak to like how other states have done this. How do they provide the receipt for donation? That's always been is it a similar process as like donating to Goodwill that you get that receipt?
Sammy, I'll let you go first if you want.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, sure. So on the Means side, yeah, we issue those receipts. So that's the benefit of donating through Means. So yeah, you just need to provide either the cost basis or fair market value. There's kind of two ways to do a receipt, and that's convenient because when you post on our online forum, like you saw in the video, that asks for that information. So we have everything there to generate the receipt already. Yeah, and we're a nonprofit organization. We have a 501c3 number. So you can just mark us down, we'll vouch for it, and it's all set.
Yeah, and similar with Means database, Rescuing Leftover Cuisine, every food donor has a portal. And on that portal, you can see real-time metrics, because after every rescue event, our rescuer, as we call it, finishes the event. And that includes the pounds rescued. So the portal is automatically updated on the food donor side, also on the rescuer and on the nonprofit side, by the way. And every food donor can also download all of the donation receipts anytime. So, in real time, monthly, annually. So we provide all the documentation, and it's auto-populated. So it's literally at your fingertips 24/7. Yeah, so I hope that answers that. And that's a really good question, because it's definitely important to be able to have that information ready all the time. And yes, this Zoom will be recorded, and we will provide a link to everyone. And we hope
the
you'll
slide
share it,
deck
by
will
the
be
way.
available as well. So the slide deck and the Zoom recording. We hope you're motivated to act, and then hopefully this motivates you to also get out and spread the word to others in your network. Other questions or comments folks want to share?
I just want to mention one quick thing related to this, because Deborah's question jarred this for me. We've just released our municipal fact sheets on our website. And if you're interested in knowing what your municipality spends each year on food waste and waste disposal, we actually found that number out for every single municipality. So I put the link right in the chat here, and you can find your city and town, and maybe even the surrounding towns, that can compare you and see how you rate against your neighbors.
So, and eagerly we'll say, if you are interested in connecting, taking action, you've got some fantastic folks to reach out to and help you do those next steps. We're among that, in terms of, if you're one to advocate, if you want to go and get good food policy out there and work with your municipality, we do that kind of work every single day. You are all very, very welcome to join our Wasted Food Solutions work group, as much as you're interested in that too. So please, as you can tell, folks are eager to continue the conversation. Let this be a good starting place. Russell shared, this year we started kabashi composting with our waste. Happy to share how to do it and our experience. Oh, that's fantastic. Can we, Russell, could you come off mute and share a few words about that? If you're able to.
Wait, who, me?
Oh, no, Russell had mentioned about kabashi.
So we expanded our commissary. So now we have a 16-bed herb garden. And we have the space because we're in an industrial park, and it was killing me to throw that trash into the dumpster. So I started looking around and found out this kabashi method, which it really is a fermentation. It's not a composting, but it allows you to compost in 11 days. So we now have, at any one time, we have 7 barrels of waste, 7 35-gallon barrels of waste. And we've composted in our herb beds. And now we're starting a compost pile. But again, we're in an industrial park. So we have, the room to do something like this. So, so far it's been going good. It's really an interesting project. And in order to do that, we have to go to our own landfill and get organic compost to cover all this up. But it's working extremely well for us.
That's fantastic to hear. Thank you for sharing that, Russell. I'll say, before we let you go, why don't we've had a really active conversation and love the comments in the chat. Before you leave us, if you want to write just one thing that you are going to take away and do or share from this hour that we've spent together. So if you'd leave us with that in the chat, a thought about what you're going to do next, or share, let us hear it. And we'll say a big thank you to everyone, to Dana, to Abby, to Sammy, to Ali for being in the background, making it go smoothly. Thank you all, and thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for organizing us all today and having us, giving us this platform. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. I'm hearing the elephant in the room is a takeaway.
Yeah.
Sharing all the resources with clients and businesses. That's fantastic, Maggie. Great. We're so glad to hear that this was useful. We will send out the slides and the recording for everyone. Great. Folks are signing up for a newsletter, taking information and bringing it back to the town in Barrington. Resources to get food out. This is fantastic. Thank you all so much. We'll say it again, and we will send out those the video and the slides, and be in touch with you all. Hopefully this is the beginning of a beautiful relationship.